What do I know? I'm just a girl on the internet. I would like to share with you something that I don't think a lot of people know about me. Whether this be my friends online or even my friends in real life, I think this is something that comes to a shock to a lot of people, surprisingly, and mostly becomes a shock because in regular conversation and icebreakers and dinner conversations, I'm typically left out of conversations because the thing about me that I want to share is that I'm not really a huge movie watcher, okay? This comes with a little disclaimer. Ever since I started dating Chris, for those of you that know, we started out long distance, so a lot of long distance dates come from watching a movie together, whether you stream it at the same time or you're on FaceTime and you go, okay, 1, 2, 3, start. I started watching movies a little bit more frequently when I started dating Chris, and now that we live together, we watch movies every so often or so. I'm still not like a huge, let me go to the theater, let me sit down. Like, I'm just not really into that vibe. Haven't really been. I will say if I'm excited about a certain movie, I'll try to go see it. The last movies I feel like I saw in theater were the Barbie movie. Most recently, I saw Project Hail Mary. But like, that's it. I have not seen so many classic, I say in air quote, movies until it's like way past time. Okay. I didn't watch Forrest Gump till like late high school. I actually just watched Mulan for the first time like a month or two ago. Chris actually had to show it to me. There's just so many movies that everyone's like, what do you mean you haven't seen it? I'm like, I just don't watch movies, I guess. And that's not like a quirky, like, I'm just so different and quirky and cool. And like, I don't watch movies. I just have never really been into, I don't know what it's about. I have like this thing, let me get into it a little bit later, or maybe like another episode, but I have like a weird thing with movies where it's like, sometimes I can only see the actor and it's like, okay, it's all just pretend and make believe. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but that's a conversation for a later time. Even pre-current era social media where everybody's brain cells are fried and everyone's attention span is shit, I have always felt that way watching movies where I'm like, I just can't focus. Like, I cannot sit through a 2-hour movie. I can't sit for that long. I'm just a restless person at baseline, and sitting through a 2-hour movie is quite literally torture. Okay, so I want to say that because I'm not a big movie person, as I'm starting to watch more and more of these air quote classics, like in the last 2 years, I've seen Harry Potter for the first time, just watched Lord of the Rings for the first time this year. I like have missed out on a lot of lore. Like, there's so many jokes and memes and discussions when you don't watch certain movies, like when you're, ingrained in that kind of pop culture. Y'all remember the movie Click with Adam Sandler? It's a 20-year-old movie, and this is not an exaggeration, like, oh, it's 20 years old. It literally came out in 2006, okay? I had never seen that movie until the other night with Chris. Never saw it. I'm pretty familiar with Adam Sandler movies. I think he's a great actor. Sometimes when I watch his movies, I'm like, okay, he's playing kind of the same character. Like, he doesn't really change a lot in his movies. And the other night, Chris and I had a lot of extra time and we just wanted to kill some time. And he was like, do you want to watch a movie? And I was like, sure. And we always try to decide how we want to watch a movie. Like, do we need to like lock in, phones off, do not disturb, lock into the movie because there's so much that's going to happen, you have to pay attention? Or is it like easygoing, something in the background, something you can kind of quote easily? Or is it something that's like just mild attention? And so we decided on mild attention. And he was like, have you ever seen Click? And I was like, I don't think so. I've heard of it. I know it's like Adam Sandler on the remote, whatever. I didn't really think anything of it. And he said, I remember Chris saying, oh, so are you in the mood to cry tonight? And I remember looking at him and thinking, am I in the mood to cry to an Adam Sandler movie? Is this some kind of joke? Like, am I being punked? Like, I think I'll be okay. Like, let's just put it on, like some silly Adam Sandler movie. Hey, so that movie is so sick and twisted, by the way. I bawled my eyes out to the movie Click. And I know it's 20 years old and I know I'm so behind the bar on this. Like, if you've seen it, it's probably been several years. And if you've not seen it, you need to watch it. And if you haven't watched it since it came out in 2006, highly recommend you rewatch it, because what the hell did Adam Sandler inject into that movie? Because I sobbed. I cried more in this movie than I did watching The Notebook for the first time. I remember halfway through the movie, I asked Chris, like I looked at him and I'm like, this is the movie that you've cried over? Here I am just thinking I had a really sweet, soft boyfriend who just got emotional. Oh, no, it wasn't until we got to the end of the movie that I actually sobbed. It starts out as a very lighthearted Adam Sandler movie, okay? Classic family, there's a dog, there's like, he just works his normal life. He's got like a hard job. He's just working so hard he can't keep up with the kids. And you're just like, oh yeah, classic like movie concept. But it progressively gets deeper with more of a hidden message and like a really impactful sort of deep core to it. And now that my frontal lobe has developed and I've experienced loss and I've talked about how it's important to celebrate the mundane things in life and find joy amongst the boring things, that movie actually wrecked me. What the hell? I cried over an Adam Sandler movie. Click. Like I did. And again, if you've not seen that movie since it came out or whatever, or maybe you saw it as a kid and like now you're an adult, go rewatch it. And let me know if you cry, because I could not believe what I was watching. I could not believe how emotional I was getting. Just seeing him want to skip over these like mundane things in life or fast forward to the next thing or like wait for the next big thing to come. And like in reality, if you do that, if you're trying to constantly skip to the next best thing, the next big thing, the next fun thing, you're going to miss out on all the like small things that happen in between. And I cannot believe I cried over it. And I never would have guessed that I would have shed a single tear over some fuck ass Adam Sandler movie. Cause like, what do you mean I was sobbing over an Adam Sandler movie? Insane. Like unbelievable, truly. Anyway, hi, welcome back to Girl on the Internet podcast. I'm your host, Kayla. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. Truth be told, I have a tragic sourdough story to tell you guys really quick. I was all pumped about making a loaf of sourdough bread. I haven't made a lot of loaves this year so far. I've made a couple, but I haven't like made a ton. And I was like, okay, I want to like refreshen my starter and make a loaf. So usually for me, like my process is I like to make a loaf over 2 days. I just feel like that's my best sequence. It all comes together perfectly when I do it over 2 days, because I also like to do a cold proof, which if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it basically means when you mix up all the ingredients to create a dough and you do all the handling of the dough, you then just kind of refrigerate it overnight or for several hours before you bake it. So I usually cold proof or put mine in the refrigerator overnight and I'll bake it the very next day. So usually a 2-day process for me. Yesterday, I was working from home. I did some household chores. I was working on social media stuff. And I was also in the process of baking the loaf that I'd already prepped. Now, Dolene is my starter, which basically is like, if you don't know sourdough terms, it's like the foundation. It's like the base of what your sourdough is. It's like the original water and flour concoction that matures with time. And then you're going to use that to actually bake bread. So Dolene has been my faithful girly. She just turned like a year old, like I talked about in a recent episode. I was excited. I, prepped my loaf. Everything was ready. She turned it to an actual like raw ball of dough. And then I was playing, my mistake, I was playing with Raven, Chris's dog, our dog. I was playing with her in and around the house and in the kitchen, and she has a lot of like squeaky toys, so we like to like squeak and throw and like play catch and things like that. And I was taking Dolene out of the Banneton that she was in, sitting in the fridge overnight. I'd flipped her onto the silicone mat that I bake with, and I turned around too fast in the kitchen, tripped over Raven, like didn't step on her, but like I turned around and it hit me like too late that she was right there. And so I tripped over her. And in order to not like fall on top of her and crush her, I kind of had to like shift my body midair. And that caused me to have my silicone holder of Dolene She flopped onto the floor. I like landed on my elbows and my hip. Like Dolene is on the floor. There's flour everywhere. I'm laying on the floor, just completely beside myself. I'm looking at Raven. Raven's looking at me. And I just had to laugh because that is just my luck of like, oh, I'm so excited to make this loaf. It's going to be so good. And then I fall and trip and I'm like laying in the kitchen. Like I fall and I can't get up actually. So, but also having to like lay there very defeated, very embarrassed. Mind you, I've been vlogging the last like several days for my YouTube channel. This, not vlogging, cameras off. So I was like, okay, I'll just have to talk about this on the podcast. But I was humiliated and it was only me in the room, me and Raven. Although I don't know what her thoughts were, but probably like, this loser. Like, this is the way I walk on 4 legs, babe. More balance, bigger base of support. All I had to do was lay there and look at Dolene. And again, Dolene was in the fridge overnight. She was like this cold, fairly solid lump of dough. To see her like kind of start to slowly like disperse, melt a little bit onto our kitchen floor. And then to observe all the flour that's like puffed like everywhere, basically. And then to inspect Dolene and think, can I save her? Does the 5-second rule apply to a raw ball of dough? I realized she was covered in lots of things. Some crumbs from the ground, dog hair, cat hair, probably Kayla hair. And I realized, oh, there's no saving her. This is just not one of those times where the 5-second rule applies. Even if the loaf is just for me and Chris, like there was no plucking all these little hairs out. And so I had to put some funeral music on and just kind of like scoop her up, carry her over to the trash and just got rid of her. And then I had to sweep and like dust and wipe things down for like the next 45 minutes. It was awesome. It wasn't awesome. It sucked. And I'm really sad. And because I really wanted a sourdough loaf because also like dinner last night would have been perfect with a sourdough loaf, but it's fine. We're going to come back. It'll be okay. It's okay. It's like not that deep. There are bigger issues in the world. It was a silly, haha, funny moment. I frequently think about things like this, which honestly, fantastic segue into today's episode. But there are things in life that happen that I feel like it's easy now to just quite literally be like, oh, well. And this is not things that are so serious, life-altering, impactful, detrimental to my life, so serious. Like I would never take a super serious topic or a super serious occurrence and just be like, oh, well. For most things in life, though, majority of day to day, like things are not that intense or so just utterly important that it's not wrong to just kind of brush it off. Again, there are big life-altering things that can happen. Think about whatever you want in the situation that you can just be like, oh, well, it's not a big deal. You would never do that to a life or death situation, whatever. But on a day-to-day basis, mundane tasks, little things like, your sourdough ends up on the floor. I could choose to stay mad about that, be mad at Raven because I tripped over her, be mad at myself for being clumsy, for not like paying attention. I could just hold on to that. I could be all kinds of emotional and upset and just angry and just let that sit heavy on my chest or on my heart. And I can just choose to be angry all day because of that, or be angry for several more hours because of that. But why does it matter? And why would I want to do that? I can't undo what just happened. Like what happened has happened. I'm in a situation where it was myself. Like there's no one to like apologize to. I didn't do anything like quote wrong. It just happened. Like it was a mistake. It happened and now it's over. It's definitely taken a lot of years of practice in terms of like fear of failure to just stop obsessing over it and stop worrying about failing or something going wrong. I kind of made a joke saying that I'm segueing from like the sourdough thing to like today's topic of the episode, but it is genuinely like how I've been feeling recently. And I think this is just a beautiful sign of maturing and aging and realizing like failure isn't the worst thing that can happen to a person. Of course, life is a spectrum. I feel like whenever you talk about certain topics, or maybe I feel this pressure from like social media because everything is taken out of proportion on social media. You could be like, I love the color blue. And then people are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you don't like green. Why would you not say anything about orange? Oh, so you hate purple. Oh, so like, okay, Kayla hates purple, guys. Like Kayla's a big fan of blue. She's like not even appreciating all the other colors. That's how social media feels sometimes when you literally say anything. And for me, I feel like because of that, not that I'm like this big, huge creator with like zillions of followers, so I'm not like technically worried about like being canceled or whatever, like on the regular, but I do feel like the internet has gone to a point where you say something and it can so quickly be misinterpreted. It can be just like totally taken out of proportion. People will assume something else because of one thing that you said, when in reality, it's like, I said I liked the color blue. I didn't say anything about any of the other colors. Like, what? So sometimes in my content, I notice like rewatching stuff or re-listening, I can kind of sometimes come off as like defensive, and I'm not trying to be that way. It's just because I feel like sometimes you say something online and it's almost like you owe somebody like a disclaimer, or like, okay, I know I'm about to say this, but like, this is what I mean. And I'm trying to like not do that. But again, I feel like in order to not sound tone deaf or to not sound too ridiculous or for your wording to be misinterpreted, like it's important to say that. So with what I'm about to say is that life is a spectrum. Failure can be perceived on this massive spectrum, right? Failure can be so many millions of different concepts and ideas. A failed project as a CEO, you can have a failed pregnancy. You can fail a math test. You can fail to get up in the morning when your alarm goes off. Failure is a huge, 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 huge spectrum. There are some failures in life that are obviously much more important, or they are detrimental, or they just have a lot more consequence per se. I'm kind of talking about the day-to-day, the week-to-week, the month-to-month, just kind of more lighthearted failures in life. In this episode, I'm not really explicitly talking about these life or death situations, something traumatic, some kind of traumatic failure, things like that. Okay, like I hope you guys are with me on that, because this is not an umbrella statement. This is not, oh, well, if it applies to a failed math test, then it also applies to like a failed pregnancy. Like those are two completely massively different things in different contexts, in different timelines. Okay, you following me? So for this episode, when I talk about overcoming fear of failure, I think more of like the smaller things that a person could fail at, not these like big monumental things. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on that. The fear of failure, I know for me, speaking from my own experience, my own life and my own time in therapy, is it's scary to fail something because it feels like a projection of yourself that other people are going to judge or ridicule or talk badly about or bring it up again. And I know for me, when I was younger, I had a huge fear of failure. I did not want to disappoint my family, my parents. I didn't want to disappoint my friends. Like I didn't want to be like an embarrassment to my friends. I didn't want to feel awful about myself because I firmly believed that failure was nothing but a reflection of myself wholeheartedly. The older and more mature that I'm getting and I'm realizing it, failure doesn't always 100% involve you. Okay, there are things in your environment, there are external factors, there are maybe sometimes other people involved in the situation. There are more things happening in a situation of failure than just you. So why would you take 100% of the blame? For example, if you're going to apply for a job and you are 150% qualified, you check off everything on the job description. Your resume covers everything. Your resume is perfect. It's very beautifully outlined and laid out and easy to read on the eye. You show up early to the job interview. You're friendly, you're kind, you make a really great impression with, the people that you could potentially be working with. Shake everybody's hand, you make great eye contact, you're very polite, you crush the questions, rock it out of the park. You're doing amazing. You leave the job interview feeling really fulfilled and like you did everything right. It's still a job interview. There's probably somebody else, at least one other person applying for the position, most likely, maybe 20 more people. You are in a situation where if you are to fail in that moment, if you are to not get this job, you cannot take 100% of the blame. So in turn, the failure is not all on you. Did you fail to get the job? Let's say you get an email 2 days later and says, hey, like we've gone a different direction. You might sit there and say, God, I'm such a failure. I can't believe I didn't get this job. I suck. I'm not qualified. I'm not that good. Maybe you start second guessing yourself and thinking, maybe I said too much in the interview. Maybe I didn't make great eye contact. You start questioning all these things because you are now experiencing failure. You're no longer as confident as you were prior to this interview or, even the moment right after when you were feeling just like on top of the world. In a moment like this, for something like a job interview where you don't fully succeed or you don't get the job that you want, failure is not 100% on you. There are so many external factors within a situation like this where it's out of your control. When you experience failure, I feel like as long as you've given your all to the situation, the rest is up to the universe or the rest is up to other people in the room. You cannot go to a job interview and just, demand that you get the job and just, coax them into believing like you're the perfect fit for the job. The employers that are in the interview with you still have to make a decision. They have to discuss it. They have to talk about who's the best fit for the position. They're looking at all these other things, right? They're looking at resumes. They're looking at schedules. They're looking about they're looking at like who will make a good fit to the team. There are so many other variabilities in a scenario like this that are out of your control. So all that to say, failure is not always your fault. And again, we're talking small scale things. Let's not blow this out of proportion. When I was younger, failure used to scare me and intimidate me so much because I thought it was a 100% reflection on myself. And I was not giving any credit or thought to the situation, the circumstance, the external factors. I wasn't thinking about anything like that. I was like, if I fail at something or if I suck at something or if I'm doing something completely wrong, it is 100% on me. When that's not the truth all the time. The way I started to overcome the fear of failure is realize that there are so many more moving parts and components into how somebody goes into a situation or they apply for something or they project themselves into this situation that could potentially set them up for failure. It doesn't mean you aren't qualified enough. It doesn't mean you didn't prepare enough for it. It just sometimes things literally just don't work out. And I know I said I was going to be speaking on like small scale stuff, but even just as a quick little like side note and like trigger warning, like pregnancy loss. Not me. I have not dealt with any of that. But just in general, I think of I have like close friends and I know so many women that they've talked about how they have suffered pregnancy loss, whether this was, just failure of getting pregnant to begin with, or maybe they had a baby and lost the baby very early on. Maybe it's a failed IVF treatment. Like so many women I've heard just like, again, online in my personal life, they've talked about failed pregnancies and there's so much shame, or at least from what I've heard, where it comes back to themselves. Oh, well, maybe I'm not healthy enough. Or maybe like my body just can't do this. I can't believe like I'm going to, fail at being a mom, or my body's just like failing at even sustaining human life or beginning human life or whatever. And it makes me think, like, obviously I would never comment face to face on somebody's journey like that because I have no business doing that. But in my head, I just think if that is someone's definition of failure, that is not like there's so much else happening in this situation that it cannot all be to blame on you, if that makes sense. It takes two to make a baby. It takes some kind of scientific process, some biological process to make a child, to make human life. Like the failure cannot be put all on one person. There, again, environmental factors, external factors, the partner or the person that you're getting the sperm donation from. Like there are so many things happening. If you're doing IVF, there's medication. Like there are so many things that are involved in that. And that failure is not a reflection of you because you are going into this 100%. You're like, I want a baby. This is going to happen. We can't always control things that our bodies do. Okay. We can control a lot, right? How much we exercise, what we eat, how much water we drink, how much sleep we get. But there are still some things within our bodies that like we can't control. Cancer, for example, or certain diseases are unavoidable. Okay. I think of one of my close colleagues that passed away from aggressive metastatic stage 4 breast cancer. And her story was the most devastating I'd ever heard in my life. She was a marathon runner. She was in perfect shape, probably perfect BMI, like very little body fat. She was a vegetarian. She had a dog. She went outside. She got sunshine. She took care of herself. She had so many creative outlets and hobbies, and she would do all these different crafty things, like very low stress seemingly. She led a really good lifestyle, had no genetic predisposition to breast cancer. No one in her family had it. She got genetic testing. She did not, show any genetic sign for it. And she felt a lump in her breast in the middle of COVID and went to go get that checked out whenever the doctor's offices opened again. She was already dealing with really aggressive breast cancer early on, had to go through all the radiation, mastectomies, all these things. And at the end of it, she still ended up passing away because her breast cancer became so metastatic and terrible. It completely killed her, unfortunately. And I think about something like that, where it's like people say, oh, well, you're only fat because you eat poorly. That's so out of touch to me. Oh, well, people only get cancer if they don't take care of themselves. Oh, they only get cancer if they just eat junk food and blah, blah, blah. I think of my friend, my colleague, who died from this evil, horrible, cruel disease such as cancer, who on paper was the picture of health, perfect health, never smoked, never drank, nothing. No ridiculous exposure to radiation, or she went, tanning in the sun when she was young and put, lathered on tanning oil, literally was a picture of health, and still developed a very cruel disease like cancer and ended up ultimately meeting her demise through cancer. So I think of things like that. And again, I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk about the small scale stuff, me talking about cancer and child loss. So sorry about that. I just think of something like that in her situation, where it's like, she did not fail. Her body ultimately ended up failing her. We don't know why she developed cancer. We don't know how, it's crazy that cancer even exists, but it's like, did she fail? No, she did everything right, but there are still things in life that are out of your control. Again, picture of health. Vegetarian, marathon runner, all these things that she was doing to live a healthy life, or doing them because she loved them. And she still had to deal with cancer. Do you mean, to me, it's that is so the opposite of failure. She did everything right. And there were still things in this life that were out of her control. And I apply that to so many scenarios regarding failure. You didn't not get the job because you were not qualified or because you sucked. It just, the people that interviewed you went another way. No big deal. You didn't not get that raise because you're bad at your job or because your boss doesn't like you. There's budgeting situations happening. They're doing other things behind the scenes that they just can't justify a raise right now for you. That doesn't mean you failed at being a good coworker or good at your job. It's just other things are happening right now. I want to believe there is some kind of psychology reference to why humans are so afraid of failure. I don't have an answer. I did study psychology, but the bare bones basics. So I don't remember any specifics, but I think human nature, we're so afraid of failure because it feels like a direct reflection of ourselves. We didn't care enough, we didn't try enough, we're not worthy enough, we're not good enough. When in reality, there are so many more moving parts that go into something that cause somebody to fail, right? A failed marriage. A failed marriage is not usually just one person, right? There's two people in a marriage. There's a lot of external factors. There's kids, there's financing, there's housing, there's life, there's work. A failed marriage is rarely just because, oh, it just didn't work out. Like there's so much more that goes into something failing than just one single particular component. So again, I say failure is not just you. It's not just one person. It's not just one sole entity. It's not one thing. There are so many moving parts in life and so much happening and timing and all of these things. And it's a beautiful thing to reflect on and be like, okay, this thing happened. I failed at it. It's actually not all my fault. All that to say, if something fails, you don't need to wallow in self-pity and just complain about you suck or you're the worst at something. Like realize that there's a lot of things happening in a situation that can cause failure. Is there anything that you did wrong or could you better next time? And how could you move forward with that? For me, getting over my fear of failure was realizing I did everything that I could. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out. And maybe that's the universe or a higher power, or there's some other door for me that's going to open and something different is going to, come my way. Or maybe it doesn't. And this just isn't meant for me. What's meant to be won't pass you by is a quote that I live by. And it is like one of those like woo-woo things that I kind of do believe in. But it's like, if something happens and it's a failure or it doesn't happen or it doesn't work out, it's probably for the best. Like there's probably a reason that this didn't turn into the thing that you were so hoping for. Because if this thing was the right fit, it was perfect, it was meant for you, it was designed for you, it would have worked out. It would have somehow miraculously have worked out, but it didn't. So this means it wasn't inevitably meant for you, at least at this time, at this moment, in this current timeline. Like it could just be that it's meant for you later, or it's just something else is going to redirect you, okay? Rejection is redirection. Failure is not a 100% reflection on you when you realize there's a lot of external factors that go into a situation failing or for something to just not work out. Something else I think of as I've gotten older and why I care a whole lot less about failure or if I fail at something is again, on these smaller scale things, I ask myself, so, oh well, like what am I losing in this situation? Again, small scale stuff, not talking about $1 million idea that is make or break, but like small stuff on a daily basis. If I burn my sourdough and it fails as a loaf, oh well, I make another one. If I don't know, if I'm 16, I fail my driver's license test, oh well, I did something wrong. Or something just didn't happen the way it was supposed to, or I didn't study enough. Oh well, I try again. As a society, we need to stop having so much fear over what if I have to do this again? Or what if it doesn't work out the first time? Because honestly, who cares? Who cares if you have to do something third time? Some of the best freaking nurses I know and work alongside of failed their nursing exam several times before they finally got it. I think it's called the NCLEX, I'm pretty sure. So many of the best nurses that I know and work with did not pass that exam on the first try. Does that mean that they're failures? Absolutely not. First of all, I hear those tests are actually really freaking hard. But second of all, it's they learn so much stuff in nursing school, literally head to toe of a human body and then pharmacy and all these other things. The tests can only have so many specific questions on that. And it's you studied your ass off. Doesn't mean you didn't work hard. Doesn't mean you didn't try. It just means there were so many things to remember and to do. And maybe the wording of the questions and how things were laid out caused you to fail. But it doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means, okay, it didn't work out for me this time. I need to regroup, restudy, do a little study group, and try again. And again, some of my best friend nurses at work literally are girl, I failed that 4 times before I got it or whatever. And it doesn't make them any less good of a nurse than a nurse who passed that big exam on the first go around. You know what I'm saying? It does not make them less of a nurse. It doesn't make them dumber of a nurse. It doesn't make the nurse who passed the test on the first try better or superior to these other nurses. It means nothing. Because after you take these exams to get your license and you have your license, that's it. Nobody cares about your test scores after that. I promise. Nobody cares. Unless you talk about it, unless you, give advice or talk about it. No one's going to they're not going to ask you on your job interview, how many times did it take for you to pass the exam? That's not a thing. It's really not, I promise. So in that example, does not make that nurse a failure, does not make that person a failure. It just means something's got to change, or we have to alter something, or have to study differently. It is not a 100% reflection on you, because I know so many of my nurse friends that have failed those exams the first few times and then pass it on the third, fourth attempt. It's not because they didn't study their ass off. It's not because they didn't work their ass off. It's not because they didn't try. It's not because they weren't well rested or didn't study. It just happened. It just happened. You can go into a test feeling incredibly confident, but come out and being like, well, damn, I failed. I got a C on the test, whatever. It does not mean you are a failure. It just means that there are so many other moving parts in a situation. Or maybe you studied different parts of material that weren't on the test. And then there was an area that you forgot to study that was, okay. You're still studying. You're still busting your ass to do well in a program or on a subject. It just means there were parts that you didn't look over, but that does not equal you being a failure. It does not make you a failure inevitably. When we fail at things, or when things don't work out on the first or the second try or the first, second attempt, I think it's also a really great thing to improve upon. How can I look back on this moment? How can I improve this situation? What can I do better? What can I do differently so that I am successful the next time around? It's a good opportunity for self-growth. It's a good opportunity to figure out how you can maneuver life a little bit better and do things differently if possible. Or how can you completely shift? You're like, maybe this thing is not for me, and I've tried and I've tried. It's just not working out because of failure, because I keep failing. Maybe this will open a door to something else for me. Maybe this will open a new opportunity and a new door, and I can just kind of move on to something else. I think that's a really beautiful part of failure as well, is it can genuinely lead you to other things. And again, at the end of the day, with these small scale failures that really aren't that big of a deal, ask yourself, how badly does this matter? And will suffice? Will it be okay if I just shrug it off and keep going? Because a failure, again, is not a fully definitive part of who you are. It's not a reflection of who you are, your intelligence, your character, your worth, and if you think that your parents are going to think of you differently, or your friends, they're not. And if they are, then they have the wrong impression and idea of you. And that's something that I had to get over, because when I was younger, if I did fail at something, I used to think my parents were going to be mad at me. They would be disappointed in me. They would think I was disgraceful, whatever. But the older I got, I was like, no, I am giving this thing 150%. It's just not working out for me, and that is okay. It does not mean I personally am a failure, or that I have to be worried about failing. It just means that this thing is not for me, or it's not working out right now. It might work out later. Maybe if I study harder, or if I do things differently, or if I shift my mindset, maybe it'll work better. It's just not right now. And that's okay. It's just taken a lot of growth and healing and practice and time to realize failure doesn't really matter. It's so not a big deal. Again, small scale. But it's is that the worst that could happen to you? It's not death. It's not a life-altering situation. It's just you didn't pass your test. Or you didn't get that job. It's really, there are, I think, bigger issues in the world. There are bigger problems. There are more concerning things than just a little failure that stumps you in life. I do think about my mom passing, and if other things in my life happen, I'm that's so not a big deal compared to something like death, or having dealt with something a lot more monumental that is very discouraging. These little failures are not what define you. Your success, your ability to try hard, your ability to be passionate about something, your desire, that's what defines you. How much energy are you giving something that you love, or something that you strive to be, or something that you are looking forward to? It's not the failures in life that reflect who you are as a person. Failures are going to come and go, and they're going to happen to everybody. And that's not a direct reflection of who you are as a person. The reflection of you is how you show up in your everyday life with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers. Reflections of you is the joy that you get in this life, your hobbies, your passions, things that you're passionate about, things that you love, what reflects you is how much effort you give to something and how much you are truly dedicated to something, or the passion that you have for something. Not the amount of times that you failed, not the fact that you had a failure, the fact that you kept going, the fact that you were willing to try again, the fact that you were willing to give it 110% despite the outcome. That is what defines you, not a failure. And also, again, at the end of the day, like, failure is not as scary as we make it out to be. Again, can you shrug it off and go, oh, well, or can you say, I can do that a little bit better and try again? Literally just pick up the bike, hop back on, and start pedaling. Failure is not the worst thing in the world. And oftentimes failures can lead to other things. They can lead to redirection. They can lead to new doors opening. They can just lead to so many other beautiful, wonderful things. And we have to learn to not be so afraid of it. Again, with the potential of you failing at something, at least you're giving it effort, or you're attempting it. Because also, like, everything in life in theory could have failure. I think of like my YouTube channel or my podcast. I could have started this whole thing and like never got any followers, never got any traction, never got any listeners. And so what? Like, would it have still been fun for me? Yeah. Would it have still been my creative outlet? Of course. Would I still been able to yap for fun to people on the internet? Of course. I would have kept going, or maybe I wouldn't have. And that's okay. Like, either way, it's like there is an outcome that can be beautiful because of failure. It is what it is, I think. Like, maybe that's like very cliche to say, or it almost seems like rudimentary to say something like that, where it's just like, oh, well. But I honestly think that is like a good way to look at life, instead of just beating yourself up because of a failure, or because something bad happened, or because something didn't happen in the way that you wanted it to happen. I think it opens other doors, and I think it allows for things to change and for things to be different. And if it's meant to be, it'll be. And a failure does not set you back at all. I think it gives you more of a push to get going, to do it again, to do it better, to do something different. And ask yourself, like, why am I afraid to fail? And if your first answer is like, well, I don't want to disappoint anybody, forget everybody else. Think about yourself. Are you really afraid of failing, or are you afraid to go 110% into something and commit to it? Are you really afraid of failure, or are you just afraid of like the repercussions that it could have? Because going into something thinking, oh, I could fail at the end of it is not a valid excuse to not do it or to be afraid of it. Because you have to ask yourself, but what if I succeed? But what if I do really well? But what if I get this job? Right? I also think of myself. I landed a job in acute care physical therapy in a level 1 trauma hospital. When I graduated college, I went to high school, and then I went to community college for 4 years. I did not go to a big university. It does not matter though. I still got a degree just like everybody else. The only experience I had in a clinical setting were the clinical rotations that were set up by my program. Okay. I did different rotations in like outpatient settings, in hospitals, but the hospitals that I did my rotations in were like easy peasy, like joint replacement. Like, you signed a dotted line, you had the surgery that you wanted, and now you're rehabbing and going. When I took my exam to become a PTA, I passed, thankfully, on the first attempt. And I remember one of my instructors at the time in the program, she called me several days after our exam, and she goes, hey, Kayla, what do you think about acute care? And I remember hearing so many horror stories in school about acute care. I'm like, oh, it's scary. Like, there could be blood, there could be throw up, there could be poop. Like, I don't think acute care is right for me. Like, I was so determined that I was going to work in like an outpatient sports facility. And my instructor, who believed in me and saw potential in me and knew me probably better than I knew myself, she goes, hey, there's an opening at this hospital. There is going to be an open position, and they want to hire a PTA, and I think you should go apply for the job. And I thought this woman was crazy. I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, no, like, I have no experience in acute care. Level 1 trauma is crazy, which, if you don't know, level 1 trauma is like the worst, craziest, most complex scenarios, injuries, patients, whatever. I think they go to like tier 3 hospitals, and level 1 is just like, they can take the most intense situation you've ever seen. Okay. Like the craziest outcome of a car accident, a gunshot wound, like the worst possible catastrophe possible. So a lot of complexity, a lot of medical stuff you have to know. And when she told me to apply, I was like, this woman is insane. Like I would never get the job. I have no experience. I don't know shit about acute care other than like knee replacements in a other kind of acute care hospital setting. And I was like, I don't know. I thought I had an in at this other place because when I was a student, I had applied at this outpatient clinic that I was actually like doing my internship at. And I was like, I think I have an in there, whatever. And she goes, do me a favor, just work on your resume, apply. And she said, at least get the interview experience. And I said, okay, period. I said, I'll get the interview experience because I had actually never done a professional interview up until this point. So I said, okay, she's on to something. Just at least go get the interview experience. Because I'm going into this thinking I'm still going to try my best. I'm going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to have a really good looking resume. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to practice sitting in front of a mirror, talking to myself, making sure I have good vocabulary and I don't go, like, but, like. So I practiced. I did all the things I could possible for this job interview. I get to the job interview. I get there early. I am sitting next to somebody who's also applying for the same position. We just start interviewing with like two different groups first and then we flip flop. And we just like briefly made conversation. She said she had been working in acute care for 20 years. So immediately I'm already feeling like down. I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. I'm not going to get the job because this chick has 20 years of experience. I have 0. I did not let that get to me though. It was in the back of my head, but I didn't let it get to me. And I went about the job interview. I interviewed with like leadership and then teammates. And I feel like it went pretty well. But I remember like driving home and thinking, okay, that was good interview experience. It was nice to actually sit through a professional interview. But like whatever, the other girl has got it and it'll be okay. 2 days later, I get an email saying that they wanted to offer the position to me. And I have now had that job for almost 8 years. And I think about fear of failure in that situation, that I was so afraid of failing the job interview or not doing well or failing to be the person I thought I was going to be that I almost didn't apply for the job. I was so afraid of failing that I almost didn't apply for the job that I've had for 8 years that I love so, so much. I've learned so much. I've grown as a clinician. I have just learned incredible bounds of medical information. I've made so many wonderful friends. It led me to so many amazing opportunities just generally, like where I was living at the time, the friends I've made, like the opportunities that came to me. And I almost didn't do it because I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of not being good enough, not being smart enough, not being qualified enough. But the fact that I just went in and jumped in head first and just did the interview and look where it got me. But had I let the fear of failure take over, I could have missed out on an incredible job, on an incredible experience, on an incredible career. So I think that goes to say, do not let the fear of failure control you. Ask yourself, if this doesn't work out, is this going to be the end of the world or will I be okay? Is there something else out there for me? Can I try this thing again if I'm still obsessed with it? Can I pivot and do something very similar? Do not let the fear of failure control your life. Your friends don't care. Your parents shouldn't care. And if they do, tell them to fuck off. Say, I'm doing my best. Some things are just not going to work out. No matter how much I feel I'm in control, I'm ultimately not. It's not up to me sometimes. I did everything I could for this job interview. I've applied for other jobs before and didn't get those. And it's okay. Like, it is what it is. As I was qualified, it just didn't work out. And that is a-okay. The fear of failure should not control you. You should go into it thinking, how amazing will this opportunity be if it works out? And if it doesn't, I'll be okay. Oftentimes we are so held back by the fear of failing or something bad happening, when I challenge you to start saying, but what's the best that could happen? Because if you're going into a situation thinking, I'm going to fail, this isn't going to work out, you think worst case scenario, force yourself to think of the best case scenario. If your brain is going to make you think of the worst thing possible that could happen in any situation ever, you also have to force your brain to think, well, what's the best outcome that could happen? Because if you're going to play that game, you've got to play both ends, okay? You have to play the entire spectrum. Don't let anxiety or fear of failing or your brain trick you into thinking things are only the worst case scenario. Let yourself think what's best case scenario. And then the rest is up to the universe and however hard you've tried, because something in that realm is going to happen. You just don't know. So all you can do is your best. Do this with your hands, a little brush off, and just let it go. Failing is not the worst thing ever. And I hope you realize that. I think that's everything I want to say on fear of failure and how do we overcome fear of failure? Can I breathe? Can I take a freaking second and talk? I think that's all I have to say on overcoming the fear of failure. Failing is still scary. It doesn't, being confident and thinking I don't need to be afraid of failure doesn't make failure not scary. Okay? It can still be scary. Going on a date, thinking this could end terribly, trying your best at something and not succeeding. Those are still scary, but you just can't let that consume you. Don't make that your entire personality. Don't let that, rain on your parade for something else. Think about how you can move forward and think about how you're still successful in other things, because you are. You're so much more than a failure, I promise. That is all I have, my lovely friends. Thank you for listening to another week's episode of Girl on the Internet podcast. Don't forget, you can find me over on Spotify, Apple. There is a video version over on YouTube. You can just YouTube search Girl on the Internet. Make sure you subscribe. Even if you don't necessarily watch the videos, just come subscribe and give the channel a little love. Share this video with someone that you think would benefit from listening to it. Hey, we all could use a little encouragement. You know what I'm saying? So send it to somebody who needs to hear it, who maybe is afraid of failing. Let them hear this. Follow over on Instagram at Girl on the Internet Pod. If you have not already, you can rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. So thumbs up over on YouTube, rating and reviewing on Spotify and Apple. That's all I got. Love you guys. Mwah! See you in the next episode.